Good morning and welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. Still out here in the desert. Got to go do my morning hike soon. Last video I recorded, I don't know what order I'm putting them up in, I was talking about cancel culture and how it attempts to bully or remove the free market. And there's some concepts about free market there that I talked about, and we need to talk a little bit about paleoconservatism, or ownership of means of production and capital. And in the earliest iterations of paleoconservatism, it was what you got was 3 acres and a cow. And the idea is that for maximum functional equality, you make sure that everyone has their 3 acres and a cow, has their ownership of their basic means of production. In an agrarian society, this actually makes a lot of sense. 3 acres and a cow is a way to produce enough food, enough stuff that you can live comfortably, more or less. Now, one of the aspects of that is that there's always the infrastructure. There's always something bigger in society that owns other stuff. The libertarian argument, of course, is always about the roads. It's the classic one, so we're going to use the roads as an example for a moment. All right. Without government, who would build the roads? The actual answer to that is nobody. Read your de Tocqueville. Look at American history. Our roads really, really sucked. Okay, we had aspects of libertarian paradise for a very long time, and man, those roads really sucked. So, what roads are a group-owned piece of infrastructure. Group ownership, we don't do it right. Okay, we don't act like they're group-owned. We act like they're government-owned and that you have no say over them. Okay, you do. You can actually, you can input, and if you're the right kind of person and you behave correctly and you know how to manage people, you can pretty much get your way with any government agency. That's not equality of outcome, but there's an equal amount of opportunity for everyone to influence their local county commission, road board. So, whatever. We don't quite do it right. We don't institute or collect or manage taxes right. But you have to figure out a way for society, your social contract, your social group, your nation, your tribe, to pay for the things that it needs that are owned in common. And we need to have things owned in common, I believe. I understand that there are a lot of libertarians who think that every square inch of the planet should be privately owned and that I should have no inherent right to travel, traverse, hang out, hike, do anything on any piece of land except the one that I own, and that somehow this is magically going to work equitably across all generations. Whatever, that's fine. What we have involves some amount of community public ownership, and I'm going to run with that because it seems to work pretty well. Better than other systems I've seen. You know, I know an immigrant from Jordan, and it's kind of funny. The king owns everything, including the land that you own. And that's kind of a very different model. I'm not opposed to public ownership of land, but you have to have, that doesn't mean that the Sierra Club controls who gets to walk on the land or who gets to graze cattle on the land. There's issues there. But you do require some infrastructure for the paleoconservative individual means of capital idea to work. Someone has to have the woodlot held in common so that people can go get their firewood in the winter with their 3 acres and a cow. And again, this is a simplistic agrarian society kind of thing. And the people who initially proposed paleoconservatism were actually religious and had specific views about the idea of how people should go about their lives in order to maximize their spiritual harmony. So I'm going to extend this out a little bit and make a different statement. My paleoconservative statement is that the primary economic goal of our government should be to ensure that everyone has ownership and control of their own means of production, their own capital. That's a different statement. It has some different meanings, and there's a reason for that. I really think that that's kind of a big deal. Ownership of your own means of production, control of your own means of production. That's a very anti-corporate piece of viewpoint right there, because it's very, very much against the idea of monopolies, large corporations, centralized structures. It really is. And that's one of the reasons why I think it doesn't get a whole lot of traction. There's a lot of corporate influence in what we call free market or capitalist ideology. And they don't like the idea that maybe Apple shouldn't exist. We talk about efficiency. Everything should be more efficient at a large scale, and the mass man and the mass this and the mass production, and maybe it's about people and not about efficiency. Maybe we can have certain scales, especially now. Our technology is at the point where we can have really major jumps to quality of life and efficiency without having large centralized control mechanisms. And it doesn't matter if your control mechanism is corporate or governmental. When you take away roads from public ownership and you put them into private ownership, the road, who will make the roads, who will build the roads argument again, then what you end up with is I-80 is controlled by a corporation that charges you to use it. And how is that better than the government? Like how? I can't petition the corporation. Oh, I have the right to go compete with that corporation. I can try to find a way to buy up 500 miles of land in a narrow parcel just south of this interstate and build my own. No, that doesn't really work. So, corporate control, government control. What we need is control that is constituted so that people have access to the control mechanisms. We can decide how things are controlled, in keeping with the principles of protecting that individual liberty. The economics of paleoconservatism are a weird combination of accepting that communal ownership is necessary. Community, societal ownership of some things, some infrastructure, the woodlot, the roads, is necessary. I like my public lands, okay? I feel that I should have access to my public lands, and I really like the idea of public lands, but they are publicly owned. They're owned by me and everyone around me. So if I have to stop and record this video for the 4th time because someone parks next to me, and that has already happened twice this morning, then so be it. I'm on public land. That's the point. People get to use it. And so, working with that idea, public land, I believe, is necessary, but I think that individual ownership, individual rights, and individual ownership and control of the means of production is necessary. Every man should, and this is not necessarily easy to achieve, but the idea is that every man, woman, whatever, should have the ability to own, should have an inherent protected ownership of their own means of production. It should be possible, should I have the skills and necessary effort, it should be possible for me to grow enough food for me to survive, period, dot. So, that's my reframing of paleoconservatism for you. Just a really short video. There's so much more to go into on this, but that's a short one. We'll run with it for now. Personal ownership and control of the means of production and individual capital is probably the highest economic goal of government and society. stay sideways, have a good one, and go look up the history of paleoconservatism.